Feeding broilers for healthy growth. Now, as you may know, guys, feed is one aspect in poultry farming that can either determine your growth or your failure, guys. Today we're going to be talking about all about feeding, how we mix and formulate our feed, how we manage our feed for better productivity, and how we administer this feed to our birds, okay, for better and for healthy growth. So you want to stick around this video till the end. Make sure you leave us a thumbs up. If you are not subscribed, click on that subscribe button. It's going to take you only a second to do so. Turn all bell notifications on so you don't miss out on our future videos, guys. Let's go into this one. As you can see from this feeder, their poop has been mixed with the feed, okay? That is very normal because sometimes they want to sleep inside the feeder. Now, do not waste this out. These little tiny grains left from after which they must have fed, okay? That is the concentrate which contains a rich nutrient for their body growth, for their maturity, and for their health, okay? So make sure you want to shift that, take away that poop, and still mix that concentrate back into their next cycle of feed, okay? So if you have watched my previous video, which I did entirely on how we mix our feed formulation process, and the different categories of feed, you will understand what I'm trying to talk about. So go back and watch that video. It's going to help you learn about all about feed formulation for your chicken broiler farms, okay? So on this one, you can see me trying to administer food to them just now because today being Sunday morning, early morning here in Central Africa, most of my workers have gone to church and I just passed around the farm to see what's going on. And one worker who is left here at the farm cannot handle the both badges, okay, because we have a badge of like day 35 going to day 40 now, plus this badge of just day 17th. So I have to give a helping hand. You can see this feeder is wet just now and I have to clean it, okay? You don't want to give them feed on a wet feeder, guys. These are aspects of biosecurity, okay? In order to keep everything neat, we make sure we clean, we wash our feeders and drinkers every single day. So that is an aspect called biosecurity, hygiene, sanitation for better performance of your farm, okay, guys? So just as it goes, feed contains 90% of your success rate, okay? Now, the way you manage your feed, the way you formulate your feed, the feed you administer to your bird determines 90% of whether you succeed or you fail, okay? And today we are going to be giving so much more importance to feed. You can see just now that they have no feed before them because all the feeders, the old ones were taken away, and now we are preparing a new plate of feed for them to serve them, okay, guys? During this time, they are very quiet and patiently waiting, guys. So once I must have fed, once I must have filled their feeders, you can see me inside and you're going to see how they are rushing. This is the moment in poultry farming that I love the most, okay? When they see feed, they rush into it. They already know the color of their plate. They know when feed is being served to them. These are things you want to set up as a farmer for your flocks to know your voice, okay? My sheep knows my voice, okay? And I know the voices of my sheep, so I am a good shepherd, guys. So let's start by talking about 4 types of feed, or you may call them 4 categories or 4 classes of feed or 4 cycles of feed when it comes to broiler chicken farming, okay? The first one is a pre-starter. Now, a pre-starter is a feed class or feed cycle that you give to your birds from day 1 to day 7 or day 1 to day 14. Now, just as the name suggests, the pre-starter is to start them off very richly from day 1, okay? Now, this feed is very rich in nutrients and all the food components that your birds they need for better performance. Now, most people do not go in with the pre-starter because it's a little expensive, it's imported and a little expensive. So you can serve your bird with the pre-starter for like day 1 to day 7 or from day 0 to day 14, depending on how your budget can carry you. But most people, like I said, don't go in with the pre-starter because it's a little expensive. Okay, so that is the first cycle of feed. You either save them the pre-starter from day 1 to 7 or from day 1 to day 14 as per your budget. If you don't start them off with a pre-starter, that is fine, that is okay. You want to go in with a starter feed, okay? The starter feed, again, just as the name suggests, is to start them off richly, okay? It all depends on how you mix your feed, the components, and what you include into it, okay? I've already talked about most of these ingredients and how you formulate your feed on my previous video, which I said I leave a link in the description and the top comment of this video. Go watch that video, guys. So the starter feed, you administer this feed to your bird either from day 1. If you didn't start with a pre-starter, it's okay. You administer the starter feed to them from day old right up to day 14th, guys. That is when you administer the starter feed, okay? Now, the starter feed contains some nutrients to start them off, to boost their metabolism and stuff like that. Now, after the starter feed that ends at day 14th, you go in with a grower, okay? The grower feed cycle starts from day 15th right up to day 29 or so, right? From day 15 right up to day 29, okay? Now, the grower feed also contains some rich nutrients to grow them up with the body weight and size that you need for your marketing, okay? So that is the grower feed and the time frame at which you can administer this feed to them, okay? Now, after the grower feed, let's say they are at their day 29 or so, you are going in with a finisher. The finisher feed cycle, just as the name suggests, the finisher, it is at their end point of their life, okay? Now, you serve them with the finisher feed from day 29 right up to day 45 or right up to their market targeted weight, okay? Because different farmers have different time frames in which they want to keep their birds, which is okay. Now, those are the 4 classes of feed, okay? The pre-starter, the starter, the grower, the finisher, okay? Now, I've already talked about this in my previous video. Check the links in the description. So, guys, what we have covered so far is there are 4 types of feed. And we have also covered their feeding cycle, okay? Their feeding cycle, 4 types of feed is the same thing if you either start with a pre-starter or you start with a starter and then you go into the grower and then the finisher. So that is their feeding cycle, okay? Now, if you have any problems with these or you have issues with your feed formulation and how to administer your feed correctly, then you want to seek a help of an expert, okay, or someone who you call a mentor. If I am that person, you can leave your comments in the comment section, your questions. I also have my WhatsApp number somewhere in my YouTube channel, which you can reach to me, and I will be very much happy to assist you when it comes to your feed and your management, okay? So next we want to go into managing, or let's talk about how many times a day you should feed your chicks, okay? Now, this is a tough question because as a farmer, every farmer, especially once you begin, you want to save a little on feed. But guys, like I used to say, it is a garbage in, garbage out type of a business. What you feed your bird, it's what you are going to be getting in return as your profit, guys. So if you manage on your feed, if you manage on anything, you are going to be growing skeletons and you are not going to achieve that market weight for better profit, okay, guys? So feed your bird very richly, guys. So do not manage on anything. Now, how many times a day should you feed your chicken? Now, this answer is very straightforward. Now, like I said on my previous video, they eat and drink a lot. In fact, all the time, 24/7, okay? So you don't want to starve, your birds, especially from day 1 right up to their 3rd week, okay? From day 1 right up to day 21, you don't want to starve them. So make sure they have food at all times, okay? Because it is this feed that that makes them grow. Okay, it is this feed that converts to their body weight, their body size, their body weight, and so on and so forth. So do not stuff them. Okay, now from the day 21 you can start saying, okay, should I feed them 4 times a day, should I feed them 3 times a day, or whatsoever, right? But again, you also want to seek the advice of an expert, okay, to tell you when you should feed your bird. Now, especially for my older birds, when it is very hot, during hot afternoons, we don't feed them, okay? You don't want to feed your birds, especially the bigger ones, when places are too hot, okay, guys? They are not going to respond positively when it comes to their growth. You want to feed them very early in the morning and during when places are not too hot. Those that is for the older birds, but for the younger birds, you want to make sure that they have feed at all times. Okay, so that answer your questions at how many times you should feed your birds a day. Again, it depends on a lot of things. It depends on their age. Okay, it depends on their age, how old they are, and it also depends on the weather condition where you are, guys. So let us go to how to manage waste. Okay, now if you look very keenly on the floor, on the beddings, again, which their poop must have even covered their beddings at their day 17, you would see that there is a lot of waste. First, it has to do with the feeders that we are using, okay? And you can see what is happening just now. Once you serve them feed, especially on this type of feeders, they try to go inside the feeder, and by so doing, especially once they must have developed feathers, they fly around, they jump around inside the feeder. In that the feed spilled over, okay, and that is waste. You can see some of them even feeding from the feed which has fallen on the beddings, okay, which all of that you want to avoid as a farmer, because this feed, it's very expensive. You bought it very expensive. If you can, please go in for feeders which can minimize wastage, okay? I'm thinking of doing the same thing, getting new set of feed in order to minimize wastage, because I hate seeing them sleeping inside the feeders, with their poop in the feeders, and so on and so forth, with all the waste. Remember, you bought this with lots of money, so you want to manage and minimize waste at all cost. Okay, once the moths are fed and the little tiny grains which are left on your feeders, do not throw that out, guys. Gather them and take all the poop out. Like I said, those little tiny little grains is what we call the concentrate, which is very rich in nutrients for their body development. Okay, so you don't want to throw anything out. Make sure the feed from the feed you have saved them until the plate or the feeder is clean enough, you are satisfied that they have finished the feed before you administer the next set of feed. Okay, guys, so we have talked about 4 types of feeding. We have talked about the feeding cycle. We have talked about how many times a day you should feed your birds. We have talked about how to manage waste, guys. Now let's talk about the importance of feed. Okay, now if you have been following so far, feed is 90% whether or not you will succeed in your farming endeavor. Okay, it is very important because it is a feed that converts into body weight, body growth, into size, shape, and into those kilograms which you want for your marketing. Okay, so feed is very important. Do not minimize, do not manage on anything, do not starve them from any nutrient when it comes to feeding them healthily for growth, okay, because it is very important, okay. Now, feed is currently very expensive due to corn, okay? Now, if you want to take and scale up your business into a different level, guys, if you can afford it, then plant corn, okay? Get a piece of land somewhere, get a piece of property and plant corn on it, okay? If you can produce corn, because corn alone or maize in the feed contains about 90% of the feed. 80 to 90% is corn. So if you can get your own corn, your own maize, you are going to cut so much on feed expenses for your farm. And at the tail end, you are going to be successful in your poultry endeavors, putting so much money in your pocket, guys, because feed, like I said, and corn alone, it's like 80 to 90% of what we used to formulate their feed. Okay, so I hope you are learning something so far, and you're finding some value. If you do, I'm happy. Please make sure you leave me a thumbs up. It helps my video to rank in the YouTube algorithm. If there's something you're not clear about, please leave me your questions in the comment section. I am going to respond almost immediately, guys. So by this time, all of their feeders, their feed must have already been served, and you can see them gathered and eating healthily and very happy, guys. So another thing you want to keep your eyes on, it is if the feeders are enough for them, okay? You don't want to have 200 of them gathered on just one feeder, guys. That is going to affect your growth, okay? Their growth. They are not going to feed very well. Some will be feeding and some won't be feeding. This point is true because at the end of their life, say at day 45, you can see some are big, some are small. The reason because your feeders aren't enough to accommodate all of your birds, okay, because some are feeding more than others, okay. So you want to keep a keen look at that. Now as they grow bigger, our brooder becomes smaller. You can see it just now. So that is why we have to prepare our bigger haul to send them out by day 21 or 22nd, 23rd, whatever. We are going to be sending them out. And doing so, again, we are adjusting on a lot of things. Doing so, it means we are also going to be changing their feeders in order to minimize wastage, okay. Now if you've watched my previous video, you're going to see our much more older birds, what they are feeding from. It is much more better because it helps us really minimize on feed wastage, okay. So by this time, all of them, they are eating. Now some we eat and some we eat later. That is how it goes. They don't feed all at the same time, but I try to make sure that the feeders are spread all around the brooder so that they can find feed at all corner of the brooder in order to be well fed, okay. Your goal as a farmer, especially from day 1 right up to day 21, is to let them feed as much more as they can and to also let them drink as much more water as they can. This is going to help them grow much more faster to achieve that body weight, that kilogram, and that goal of yours, guys. You can see how happy they are jumping in the feeders and of course wasting, right? So you can see me. In order to transfer them into the bigger hall, you can see our older birds on the other corner. Now we have to prepare this other corner for them to be sent out by day 21, day 22nd, or day 23rd, okay. In order to do so, we must dry our litter. We must make sure that our litter is dry enough to send them out, okay. That is why you see me sending off this litter, and we have dried it down for like 2 days to 3 days. I hope you found some value. You love what we do on this channel. Leave us a thumbs up, and I will see you around soon.